What is up, everybody? Episode 9 of Married at First Sight. We got to get in a little deeper with most of our couples. I really felt like we didn't get too much from Lindsey and Miguel this week, and also felt like Alexis and Justin are still just swirling around the same issues that they have been for the last few weeks. So we'll leave those two couples to the end. But let's jump into our couples where felt like things were happening for them. First off, with Morgan and Binh. They're not going to make it. Let's just be perfectly frank here. They're not making it. They might not even make it to decision day. And I think what we saw this episode from them really just goes a long way to confirm those suspicions. We started with that little mermaid class, whatever that was. I think the only interesting part of that entire little date that they put together was getting to see Binh without a shirt on. Dude had a lot of abs. From there, we really got a bunch of bizarre conversations from these two, and really what felt really off was how they kind of interact with each other, and like the first one being Morgan basically confessing her love for her ex. Like, did I misunderstand that entire situation? Morgan said that he was the right person at the wrong time and made it sound like he was the perfect person in the world for her, just wasn't the right time. So there's definitely some lingering feelings there, and I think we're slowly learning that Morgan is not a person who has successfully dealt with any issues from her past. She might claim that she's strong and that she's put her past in the past, but I don't believe that for a minute. Trying to tell Binh how he needs to heal himself. Morgan, you aren't even healed yourself. You might have similar traumas in your past, but you've both dealt with them wildly differently. And in Morgan's case, I don't think that she's dealt with them at all. Just kind of tried to say they're in the past. Did y'all see Binh absolutely pouring his heart out to Morgan and her just giving nothing in return? She was like, when you're having a conversation and you just want to get out of that conversation and you just like, yep, That's what she was doing to Binh. Binh's just laying it all on the line and, having this emotional moment, and she doesn't even have the compassion to like reach out and touch him, try to comfort him, try to give him a little bit of support. I think she hit him with the, hey, thanks for sharing at the end. Absolutely ridiculous. And then they ended that entire interaction with like some bro secret handshake. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely the behavior of two people who are madly in love with each other. I don't see these two working out, and all these moments, all these conversations just go to support that opinion. Binh, he prepared that nice meal for them, and then of course the fire alarm goes off. Like, the guy can't catch a break. It really seems like Binh is trying to make amends in this relationship, and Morgan is not buying it, not having any of it, and unless she gets her ex back, she is just not going to be happy. And we did get a little bit of a better conversation between them at dinner, but most of it was still like Binh sharing the story of how he faced racism growing up and being the only Asian person in his neighborhood, always trying to please everybody. And then we have Morgan. Her response is, oh yeah, I'm the exact same way. And I'm thinking, so you were the only Asian person in your neighborhood and faced racism the whole time you were growing up too, Morgan? That's that's great for sharing, because I don't think that's what you meant when you said that you were the exact same. And then we end the episode with Morgan saying that Alexis told me everything, and then just walking away from Binh. We've seen all season long, Morgan is not a person to even have the faintest, I don't know, like forgiveness is just not in her realm. It's not a word that she's ever thought of. Even look at the situation with her dad, and while we don't have all the details, there's no forgiveness there. That is just Morgan just cut him off from her life. And I'm not saying that she should reach out and forgive him, but to me, you know, just shows that's how she deals with things she doesn't like in her life. She just cuts them out, cuts them off, and moves on. And right now we are seeing her take those steps to put an end to this relationship. And next week could be one of the last episodes we see those two together. All right, way too much talking about Morgan and Binh. Let's move on to Kristin and Mitch. Do we have to even talk about Shirtgate? Like, it was just stupidity. Like, they tried to steal a joke that's been circling the internet a long time ago about a group of wives all buying the same shirt for their significant other and then all going to the same wedding together, and it was hilarious. They tried to do the same joke here, and you know, even as a viewer, I wasn't buying it. And then when Mitch said he didn't want to wear the shirt, I thought it was amazing. And from what we've seen from Mitch, that's a very Mitch thing to do. Like, everything we've seen from him, that is exactly what you would expect Mitch to do in that situation. And shockingly, Mitch pulled a Mitch. You know, Kristin did convince him to just wear the shirt and then take it off once he got there. But clearly that just amplified the whole situation and would have been way better off. Just don't make Mitch wear the shirt. You know, that's just not something that you should try to end your marriage over, is whether your husband wears the shirt for your funny joke or not. Like, he doesn't want to wear the shirt. You know how he is, can be very particular in certain situations and with certain decisions. Just take the L on that one, Kristin, and move on. So Kristin, she just started full on talking about having kids, and I don't know if that led to the whole, or it wasn't even really an argument, but the Mitch moment with him not being supportive of Kristin wanting to flip houses. I don't know if it did or not, but the conversation kind of went from, we need to start having babies immediately, to Kristin start talking about her future aspiration of wanting to flip houses. And that whole time, like, even trying to be inclusive with Mitch, like, hey, we can do things that are sustainable. We can build in ways that are good for the environment. We can do things green. And as soon as he was just fixated on that moment and that idea that flipping houses is bad, and yada yada yada. But the whole point there turned out to be that Mitch was basically equating Kristin to being a huge corporation that swoops in, prices families out of homes, and runs the housing prices up. And that is totally not what she was doing. She was just saying, like, hey, I just want to go and like do some renovations on a house and then sell it. Like, that's not the same as trying to corner the housing market. She's just one person who wants to do something and wants to include you in it, but you were having none of it. You know, that whole thing spilled over into their karaoke date, and the karaoke date looked like a lot of fun. Like, I'm not a karaoke guy, but I think I would have had fun going to karaoke with Kristin and Mitch. I just want to leave before they have the housing crisis argument at the end of the date. Just back to Mitch fixating. So we have seen several times now of Mitch just fixating on a problem, on an issue, on a topic, and it really having a negative impact on their relationship. We saw it on the honeymoon with Mitch fixating on not being attracted to Kristin when clearly he was. We could all see that he was, but he fixated on this idea that he wasn't, got it stuck in his head, got it off his chest, and then moved on. And now we've seen the same with the house flipping. He's fixated on the point in the house fixing that about the basically the housing crisis that's going on right now, and basically saying that if Kristin does it, that she's going to be part of that problem and doesn't want anything to do with that, without giving any validation or support to her and her dreams. I just looked down at my notes, and my next note was just Mitch didn't like the shirt, and we already talked about that, but yeah, he very much didn't. I lost my train of thought on these two. I'm sure there was one more thing to talk about, blah, 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 Mitch is ridiculous. Somehow they're going to still say yes on decision day. Let's move on. Stacia and Nate. I shifted a little bit onto Team Nate this episode. I didn't like Stacia from the start to the finish of this episode. I think that she fueled the entirety of their conflict based on one very stupid thing that Nate said. And that was the moment that he said that his love or his feelings for Stacia were a 4 out of 10. And the way that Nate described that scale, 0 being no feelings, and then you're falling in love, and then you're falling in love even harder, and then at 10 you're in love. So on his scale, he's in the falling in love category. And instead of just saying, I'm definitely falling in love with you, he had to go and say, my love is a 4 out of 10. And that was the catalyst for all their issues for the rest of the episode. And I don't know if Stacia is going to get over this. It's ridiculous. Like, she just kept just beating a dead horse, really. What was her strategy there for making him fall in love was, hey, do you love me now? What about now? Do you love me now? And that is definitely not going to work with Nate. I don't think that that's his personality at all. We've seen from him, he wants to do things on his terms, at his pace, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. The moment that you force someone to do something that they don't want, they're going to put those guards up. They're going to put that wall up, and through this whole episode with Stacia just continuing to poke Nate, and Nate said some very not nice things in this episode, but it's all stems from Stacia just continuing to prod, and it just was not healthy for them at all whatsoever. You could see that she was trying to piggyback off of the Pastor Cal line where he said it's a decision to fall in love or a decision to be in love, and you need to make that decision if you want this to work. And she was basically trying to force Nate to say that when, he's falling in love, or at least he was before this episode, and just didn't seem like the topic that she needed to just take a stance on, because yes, he's headed in that direction, And if you give him the time, give him the space, I think that Nate has shown that he's at least going to try. And that might be better than some guys that we've seen in the past. You know, Nate saying that Stacia was manipulating him, and in that moment, I think that he was right. It was absolutely the wrong thing to say in that moment. Just like, don't say that. Not the words that you want to come out of your mouth to your spouse. I think that's about it for these two. You know, they ended with that huge fight. Things don't look great for them. Stacia, you know, you poked the bear enough, and this is the result you got. So I hope that you're happy with it. The last two couples, Alexis and Justin. Justin was full on rambling at that group therapy session, and, you know, really just needed somebody in his corner, whether it's Alexis, the therapist, or Binh, whoever needed somebody in his corner to try and help him get his point across, instead of, you know, belittling him and kind of beating him down on that point. Because once again, I think we've seen that is not what's going to work with Justin. That's not what he needs for in terms of emotional support and what he wants out of his partner. Other than that, they're just in the same rut that they were a week ago, and not sure what's going to be needed for them to get out. Lastly, Lindsey and Miguel. Hated that initial conversation between Lindsey and his friend. We've heard Miguel just casually throw out the word crazy a few times this season while talking to or talking about Lindsey, and at this point it's starting to feel very deliberate. You know, I think that's how he feels, and I'm sure that that's the last thing that Lindsey wants to hear someone say about her. You know, we've said all season long, she just needs somebody to support her in those moments. We've even seen Miguel support Lindsey in those moments where she starts to spiral, and it's starting to sound like Miguel doesn't want anything to do with someone who has moments like that at all whatsoever. So I think that really limits the number of people that you're able to match with in life, because everybody is going to have bad moments. Everybody's going to have bad things go on in their life. Everybody's going to have a moment of weakness, and if you think somebody's crazy because they had a bad moment, then that's more on you than it is on the other person. Also, we saw Miguel try to quantify a feeling when they were talking about Grace, and guys, just stop doing that. You know, we saw Nate do it, and it totally backfired in their relationship. Now we saw Miguel do it, and it totally backfired in his relationship. But anyways, everybody, I think that we're going to wrap things up for tonight. Yeah, my brain is just not even working anymore. So I'm rambling more than Justin was at the therapy session at this point. So let's end this whole thing. I'm out.